Good Monday. It's time for Fresh Can News for the 7th day of January, 2019. I'm your armchair news reporter and presenter, Joe Hafner, with you. And we started the day off with cloudy skies, periods of showers, and thunder showers across much of central and northern Missouri. And that line of rain continues to extend through southern Missouri and will likely move through the area throughout the day. Along with the temperatures warming up to unseasonably warm levels, highs in the mid to upper 50s across the Kirksville, Missouri region. But those temperatures won't stay warm for very long, as they're expected to drop throughout the afternoon. Colder temperatures for tonight and tomorrow. I'll have more details on that weather forecast coming up after a look at local and regional news of interest. And leading off the news on this 7th day of January, 2019, Quincy, Illinois police are investigating a homicide that took place yesterday morning in the city. Quincy Deputy Chief Doug Vandermaiden stated that police are conducting a homicide investigation from an incident that occurred in the 800 block of South 13th Street early yesterday morning. Vandermaiden reported the victim of the incident is 53-year-old Dennis Green of Quincy. Officer Vandermaiden stated that officers were sent to the 800 block of South 13th Street shortly before 4 a.m. for reports of gunshots being fired. Green was found on the front porch suffering from at least one gunshot wound and was ultimately pronounced dead at the scene. An autopsy was conducted yesterday in Bloomington, Illinois. So far, details of that autopsy have not been released. There were people inside the residence when the shooting occurred, but no one else was injured, according to Vandermaiden. Multiple shell casings were recovered from the scene. Area neighbor Matthew Unglesby said a car pulled up in front of the house, and someone inside the vehicle shot Green while he was on the porch. Although Vandermaiden did not mention any suspects, he stated the police department does not believe there is any reason to believe that any further danger to the public is possible as a result of this incident. Vandermaiden stated that the investigation is ongoing and that the Quincy Police Department is asking for the public's help in identifying the suspect or suspects. If you have any information that may help, please call the police department directly or through Crime Stoppers. Hotline number is 217-228-4474. And that's 217-228-4474. In other news this morning, a 4-year-old girl, Gabriella Curry, died after she was struck by a Columbia police vehicle at Battle High School Friday afternoon. According to Columbia Police Chief Jill Schluty, she met with Central Missouri area media Friday to talk about what happened and where the investigation is going as of Friday night.
So at about 3:55 this afternoon, Joint Communications received a radio call from an officer. An officer called in on the radio that there had been an incident out here at Battle High School. An accident occurred involving a CPD vehicle. A Columbia police officer was driving the vehicle, and a 4-year-old child was struck. I am unfortunately here to tell you that the child has passed away. I would ask everyone to please pray for the family and pray for the officer that was involved in this incident. It is extremely tragic, and there's just a lot of people that need prayers tonight. I immediately requested the Missouri State Highway Patrol to come and take over the accident investigation. That is our practice. They very willingly accepted that and are on scene right now, starting that process. Because of that, the investigation is now theirs. We will not be making any further comment, and I can't answer any questions because it is their investigation at this point. I do want to thank the fire department and the emergency services members that responded here today to assist, the members of the school that were here to help, and everyone else who was on scene that tried to assist as best they could. I apologize that I can't answer any other questions at this time, but I would refer you all to the public information officer with the Missouri State Highway Patrol, as that will be your contact while the investigation is ongoing.
The Columbia Police Department says at around 3:55 Friday afternoon, the car driven by Officer Andrea Heath hit the girl. She, another officer, and school personnel immediately began giving first aid, but the child died later at a hospital. He's a 5-year veteran of the Columbia Police Department, has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation by the Missouri State Highway Patrol. Authorities are continuing to investigate a motor vehicle crash that occurred in southern Iowa over the weekend that ended in the Des Moines River near Keosauqua. Members of a volunteer search party announced on Sunday that they have found the body of a dead man east of the crash site. The man's identity has not been made public yet. The search began Friday night after the accident. The Van Buren County Sheriff's Department says 2 people were traveling in the vehicle. The man was swept away by the water current before authorities arrived on the scene, and his body was found yesterday afternoon. A woman in the car was rescued Friday night and was reported safe. A Clark County Middle School custodian was sentenced Friday for making a terrorist threat. Court records show that 38-year-old Amanda Miller of Cahokia, Missouri, was sentenced to 4 years in the Missouri Department of Corrections, but will avoid serving time as long as she appropriately completes 5 years of probation under the supervision of the Board of Probation and Parole. Miller was also ordered to serve 75 days of jail time in the Clark County Jail, with credit for time served previously. The Clark County Sheriff's Office said that Miller wrote, quote, "I'm going to kill everyone at the school today," unquote, in the girls' restroom stall on October 25th of last year. The threat resulted in all Clark County schools being canceled for the day. Miller was arrested on November 1st. In December, Miller pleaded guilty to making a terrorist threat a second-degree offense. The lawyer for a former Missouri inmate suing a guard and counselor for sexual assault says the state's attempt to send her back to the same prison will re-traumatize her for no practical reason. The Kansas City Star reports that the Missouri Attorney General's office requested last year that Karen Kyle's original 15-year sentence be restored after a judge reduced some of her charges. Kyle was released in 2017 after serving 6 years in Chillicothe at the correctional center there, where she alleges corrections officer Edward Bearden and counselor John Dunn raped her. Kyle's lawyer, Kent Gibson, says Kyle will be eligible for parole if her sentence is restored, but that she would spend months in the Chillicothe prison before getting a hearing. Kyle's among 3 former inmates, suing Bearden for sexual assault. The Attorney General's spokesman declined to comment on the case. The federal government shutdown is having an impact on some people trying to buy a home. NECAC officials said there are families that have been approved for USDA loans for homes, but since the shutdown has closed the USDA, that money cannot be handed out. The people who have already received approval, or people who have gotten some loans, would be in better shape, but it's a waiting game right now, according to Public Relations Officer Brent Engel. NECAC officials say while they're not able to process USDA loans at this time, many of their other programs that help individuals in the tri-states were funded before the shutdown began. Some of those programs from NECAC that are currently funded through utility assistance, community services, housing and rental assistance, and client services. Hy-Vee Incorporated, based in West Des Moines, Iowa, is voluntarily recalling its cheesecakes made with Diamond Crystal Brand's cheesecake mix due to the potential that they may have been contaminated with salmonella. The potential for contamination was brought to Hy-Vee's attention last week after receiving a letter from the supplier. The voluntary recall includes 32 varieties of cheesecakes in both 8-ounce and 32-ounce packages, with best if used by dates of December 6, 2018 through January 11, 2019. So far, no reports of illnesses have come to light. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, salmonella is an organism that can cause serious and sometimes fatal infections in young children, frail or elderly people, and others with weakened immune systems. Healthy persons infected with salmonella often experience fever, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. In rare circumstances, infection with salmonella can result in the organism getting into the bloodstream and producing more severe illnesses such as arterial infections and arthritis. The mixture was distributed to 117 of Hy-Vee's 249 grocery stores across its 8-state region of Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. The product comes in a plastic container with a plastic lid. Again, the expiration date range is between December 6th, 2018 and January 11th, 2019. The expiration date can also be found on the label. And for a complete list of those products, head to your nearest Hy-Vee store or check it out online. 2 Cahokia men were involved in a single vehicle crash late Saturday night that left one man dead and the other with serious injuries. Highway Patrol says that 18-year-old Damon M. Krogmeyer died from his injuries, while his passenger, 18-year-old Logan M. Claiborne, was seriously hurt. Authorities say Krogmeyer drove his car off the left side of Highway 81, a mile north of Antioch Road, just before midnight. The vehicle hit a tree and overturned. The patrol was assisted by the Clark County coroner, Edwin Wilson. The body of Damon Krogmeyer was taken to Wilson Funeral Home. Logan Claiborne was taken to a Quincy hospital for treatment of his injuries. 5th District Representative-elect Louis Riggs lists rural broadband access, infrastructure, and precision agriculture as a few of his focuses as the Missouri legislative session gets underway later this week. Riggs says he has decided to pursue the position in early 2017.
I made the formal announcement November 2017, thinking a year of this ought to be plenty, and it is. I don't recommend four-way primaries. Anybody out there interested? They're not a lot of fun, but put in a lot of work, had a really good team around me, lots of, family support, folks within the community. Got to know folks in Shelby County real well, which has just been an absolute joy.
Riggs will replace term-limited Lyndall Shoemake when the legislative session begins on Wednesday.
We're looking forward to rolling up the sleeves and getting to work. We had orientation for new members, part of a 2-week bus tour around the state. We didn't get as far north as Kirksville or, Hannibal. We did get as far north as Thomasville Power Plant, which was good. Also got as far north as Louisiana. I take a look at the Champlain Bridge. So folks, other parts of the state know that we're alive up here. Would have liked to see us go farther north, but 2 years from now, we'll make sure that happens.
Riggs will represent Shelby, Monroe, and Marion counties. The Republican defeated Hannibal's Joe Freese for the position. 3 roadwork projects are scheduled to continue this week, beginning today in Howard County, weather permitting. According to MoDOT, bridge maintenance is scheduled to take place on Route H over Salt Fork Creek, south of County Road 204. The project is scheduled to continue through Friday, January 18th. Brush cutting is scheduled on Route Y between Highway 124 and Howard County Road 138, with the project scheduled to last through Friday, January 18th. Each project will have one lane open, and a crew will flag traffic through the work zones. Also, culvert pipe replacement is scheduled from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day at various locations on Highway 87 between Howard County Roads 312 and 340. Work is scheduled to continue again through Friday, January 18th. And in nearby Cooper County, 2 roadwork projects are scheduled to continue this week. According to Missouri Department of Transportation, brush cutting is scheduled on Route U from routes B and J, with the work scheduled to last through January 18th. During the project, one lane of traffic will be open through the work zone. Also, culvert pipe replacement is scheduled from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. at various locations on Route T between Route J and Cotton Drive. Again, the work is scheduled to continue, weather permitting, through January 18th. And in Sheridan County, a roadwork project is scheduled to cause a roadway closure for several hours of each weekday in Sheridan County beginning today. Missouri Department of Transportation officials say that culvert pipe replacement is scheduled from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Highway D between Highway 5 and Muscle Fork Avenue. The work is scheduled to continue each weekday through Friday, January 11th. Motorists are advised to seek an alternate route around the work area. Again, all that work is weather permitting. A Keithville woman was slightly injured in a single-car crash Friday a mile west of Huntsville in Randolph County. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says that 65-year-old Teresa L. Sportsman lost control of her car on eastbound Highway 24 at around 7:45 when she hit a deer on the highway. Authorities say Sportsman was treated at the accident scene. The patrol was assisted by the Randolph County Sheriff's Department and the West Rand Fire Protection District. A Sedalia team sustained moderate injuries in a four-vehicle crash in Pettis County on Friday. According to a report from the Missouri State Highway Patrol, the crash occurred as the driver of a westbound vehicle, 17-year-old Ella Izoda, reportedly tried to turn and traveled into the path of an eastbound vehicle driven by 44-year-old Jeffrey 20 of Sedalia. 20's vehicle reportedly traveled off the roadway, struck a northbound car driven by 26-year-old Peter Caharetz of Sedalia. Izoda's vehicle reportedly struck another car driven by 28-year-old Sarah Young of Green Ridge before going off the highway. The crash occurred around 4:20 Friday afternoon at the intersection of Route Y and Quisenberry Road. An Odessa woman faces felony charges after she allegedly stole $3,500 worth of property from an acquaintance in Kansas City and stashed the items at her home in Lafayette County. A probable cause statement says that Odessa police officers, with assistance from the Kansas City Police Department detectives, served a search warrant at an apartment in the 400 block of North 4th Street last Wednesday. 35-year-old Lori O'Quinn was arrested after authorities found several of the reported stolen items within the residence. Also, authorities reportedly found drug paraphernalia and methamphetamine. O'Quinn reportedly told authorities she committed the burglary and sold some of the stolen items in Green Valley. Online court documents say that O'Quinn has been charged with a Class D felony for possession of a controlled substance and stealing of $750 or more. Her bond has been set at $10,000. O'Quinn reportedly entered a plea of not guilty during her arraignment hearing on January 3rd, and her case was continued for a hearing at 10 a.m. Next Wednesday, January 16th, at Lafayette County Circuit Court. Back in Howard County for just a moment, the Fayette School Board approved a 72-cent operating tax levy increase for the April election ballot. Outgoing Fayette School Superintendent Dr. Tamara Kimball notes the measure lost by 26 votes just this past August.
All of the expenses that the school district has have increased over the last 19 years, and it was at that time a 32-cent increase. Not only has everything increased, but school districts everywhere have also had to fund mandatory educational programs that the state and the federal government have required. And the money for those programs hasn't been equivalent to their cost.
Dr. Kimball cites special education and transportation as examples.
But you never know how much all of those mandatory programs are going to cost until the end of the year. And so paying for those has forced us to deficit spend, and our fund balances have dropped as a result of that. The last 6 years we have tried to do everything we could to save money in other areas, but those things are small in comparison to $800,000, $900,000 or $1 million. One year it was a little over $1 million that we had to pay to cover the mandatory programs.
Fayette School Superintendent Dr. Kimball, the Fayette Superintendent, says that Hy-Vee will now join Fayette and Glasgow on a combined VOTEC bus route to Moberly in an effort to save money. An American Red Cross blood drive is scheduled to be held this Thursday, January 10th, in Howard County. According to a news release, the drive is scheduled to be held from 2 until 6 that day at the Knights of Columbus Hall at 701 1st Street in Glasgow. To make your blood donation appointment, you can do it one of three ways. Download the Red Cross Blood Drive donor app from app stores. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS. That's 1-800-733-2767. Or visit the Red Cross Blood Drive website at redcrossblood.org. Again, that web address is redcrossblood.org. A reminder, several area city governments are scheduled to meet later today. For example, the Marshall City Council is scheduled to hold a public hearing regarding the city's application for a Community Development Block Grant Program during its meeting at 6 o'clock tonight. The agenda says the council is also scheduled to discuss appointments to the MMU Board of Public Works, as well as appointment of a director and alternate to the Missouri Joint Municipal Electric Utility Commission. Marshall City Council will meet in the council chambers at Marshall City Office at 214 North Lafayette Avenue. Meanwhile, the Concordia Board of Aldermen is scheduled to discuss amending a contract with the Chamber of Commerce regarding contracted labor during its meeting, which begins at 5 o'clock this evening. The advanced agenda says that aldermen are scheduled to discuss a policy for spreading ashes on city-owned properties, as well as consider a contract for the destruction of records in accordance with state laws and statutes. That meeting is scheduled in room 202 at the Concordia Community Building at 802 South Gordon Street in Concordia. The Higginsville Board of Aldermen is scheduled to approve the mayor's appointments to various positions during its meeting later today. The agenda says aldermen are also scheduled to discuss an ordinance regarding fees for graves at the city cemetery, as well as a scheduled joint meeting between several utility departments. There is also a closed executive session on the agenda for the board to discuss legal, real estate, and personnel matters. The Higginsville Board of Aldermen meeting is scheduled to begin at 6 o'clock tonight at City Hall at 1922 Main Street. A frosty highway left a Princeton, Missouri woman with minor injuries during a single-car crash 2 miles south of her hometown Saturday morning. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says that 79-year-old Connie S. Byers refused treatment for her injuries. The accident happened around 9:45 Saturday morning. A Boonville man was slightly injured during a single-vehicle crash a few miles southeast of his hometown early yesterday morning. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says that 18-year-old Hayden G. Dufer failed to stop his pickup at a stop sign on westbound Route F at Route B and then hit an embankment. Authorities say Dufer refused treatment of his injuries. The crash happened around 1:15 yesterday morning. And a Boone County Sheriff's deputy said a woman was taken to an area hospital after being involved in a single-car crash with a gas tank Saturday night. The crash had happened around 8 o'clock at the Sinclair gas station on East Dripping Springs Road next to Highway 63. A tow truck removed a small white car from the scene. The deputy did not provide any information on the severity of the injuries. The gas tank is located next to the Sinclair gas station and sits at the bottom of a small hill. On Saturday evening, a Sinclair gas station worker said none of the pumps were in operation. The worker was unsure when the pumps will be up and running again. Members of the American Diabetes Association put on a presentation to alert the community about the signs of a type 1 diabetic emergency at the First Presbyterian Church in Kirksville yesterday. The presentation included a video about the warning signs, testing blood sugar levels, and learning how to inject insulin shots. 2 young members of the church were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes late last year. Christine Gran also says she takes special precautions for her son's day-to-day life. Gran says that it's important to know type 1 diabetes symptoms such as dramatic weight loss and fruity breath early on to prevent serious issues. The annual Kirksville Chamber of Commerce banquet will take place a week from this Thursday, January 17th, starting at 5 o'clock at the White Oaks Barn in Kirksville. The banquet is a chamber member event, but this year the banquet is open to the public. This year, Kirksville Young Professionals has teamed up with the chamber to award 5 under 40 in the community. Something new they are doing as part of the banquet this year is the Kirksville 5 and under 40. Kirksville Young Professionals Group is now a committee of the chamber, and they have done that awards recognition program for several years, and so now they are a committee instead of a standing organization. Tickets are $25 and can be purchased at the Kirksville Chamber of Commerce office in Kirksville during business hours. State Representative Tim Remley is looking forward to addressing the amount of time it takes businesses to obtain permits before expanding or locating operations in Missouri.
I'm pre-filing another economic development bill for permitting through the DNR, and we've been able to work really well with the DNR, and I think they're already trying to move that goal up to quicker permits for businesses that are coming in with 20 or more employees.
The Excel Republican says the Department of Natural Resources is also attempting to shorten the time frame.
Talked to the director, and she actually says she's already really trying to work to that goal to get permitting redone for our state where we can see that permitting process go. This bill will just kind of enhance them to have communication with those businesses. If they're not going to get that within 6 months, that they just let those businesses know why they didn't get the permit and what they can do to get that permit going.
Remley says this would be a big plus for business owners.
It really enhanced for businesses that are looking to build on to their existing facility or new companies coming in. When they're waiting on permits, the average was 12 to 14, sometimes 16 months, which is ridiculous when a company actually makes an investment trying to come in and start that new process and then having to deal with regulations that they don't even know about or surprise. Within 6 months, a lot of other states are giving these businesses permitting, so I want Missouri to step up to the plate and do the same thing.
Missouri's next legislative session begins this Wednesday. And a reminder, several more area city councils are meeting in session later on today across northern and central Missouri. The Carrollton Town Council, scheduled to discuss a contract to house prisoners in Sheridan County. That's at their meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. Advance agenda says the council is also scheduled to approve the 2019 budget and a contract with Westbrook and Company to conduct the 2020 audit. A closed executive session is scheduled to discuss legal, real estate, sealed proposals, and related documents and personnel matters. The meeting will be held at City Hall at 206 West Washington Avenue, beginning at 6 o'clock tonight. At 6:30, the Sedalia City Council is scheduled to consider an ordinance regarding liquor license requirements. The agenda also says the council is scheduled to see a presentation on tornado siren coverage and discuss an ordinance dealing with classifications and job descriptions for positions within the Sedalia Police Department. That meeting is scheduled again tonight at 6:30 at the Municipal Building at 200 South Osage Avenue. And one more to tell you about, the Boonville City Council is scheduled to hear the second readings of a bill regarding the approval of final site plans for the Cooper County Ambulance District and expansion of Love's Truck Stop. The agenda says the council is also set to hear the second readings of bills involving a quitclaim deed for the K Barracks at the Kemper campus, as well as the annexation and zoning of 2 separate tracts of land. The Boonville City Council meets tonight at 7 o'clock at City Hall at 525 East Spring Street. While the campaign for the United Way of Randolph County is typically over by now, that's not the case this time. Executive Director Anita Roberts explains why.
Typically, the United Way campaign ended in November. And what I found this fall is whenever I was talking to businesses, they're saying, this time of year is not good for us. We're either in production or we're laying people off because our production is just passed. And I said, what about after the first of the year? What would you like to do? And they're like, man, if you could come back in the spring, we would love to have a campaign. So I said, our campaign season will be longer. We're probably not going to close the campaign until the end of March. So there's still time for businesses to have their own campaign in-house.
Roberts wants to stress that just about all of the money raised stays local.
99% of that money that is raised stays in Randolph County. A small portion of that goes for overhead, which includes like my salary, workman's comp insurance, fundraising stuff, the collateral, and the paraphernalia that needs to be bought to host a campaign. But of that 99% that stays in Randolph County, over 94% of that is turned around to our agencies or the Coach for Kids program, the dual credit scholarship program. So the money's staying here and doing some good work.
If you'd like more information about running a campaign at your business, just contact the United Way of Randolph County. In farm news this Monday, soybeans closed higher on weather conditions and concerns in Brazil on Friday. It's hot and dry there, and it's too wet in Argentina, where some soybean replanting is reported. DTN reports that there are also expectations of export sales in the past 2 weeks, but the USDA reports that would confirm sales have been stymied because of the government shutdown. USDA announced that reports due for release on January 11th are postponed because of a lack of time to prepare them. As mentioned for corn, the 7-day forecast for southern Brazil calls for light rain amounts and more hot temperatures, stressful to row crops. U.S. trade negotiators will meet in Beijing with Chinese counterparts today and tomorrow to talk trade. Meanwhile, corn closed higher, benefiting from Brazil's forecast calling for only light rain and hot temperatures. At the same time, Argentina's forecast calls for heavy rain and possible flooding. The Energy Department said that ethanol production dropped, while ethanol inventory was higher. Wheat was higher. DTN says that export sales are suspended, or rather suspected, even though the shutdown didn't allow official reporting of them. U.S. wheat prices are low enough to be internationally competitive. The wet forecast in Argentina also creates problems for the wheat crop in terms of quantity and quality. DTN cited a report that Algeria rejected a shipment of Argentinian wheat. Switching over to cattle futures pressured by wholesale values. At the Chicago Mercantile Exchange on Friday, cattle futures closed sharply lower, pressured by the sharply lower wholesale values. The strength in the corn market pushed feeder cattle prices lower. February live cattle closed $1.30 lower at $121.92. April live cattle closed at $1.40 lower at $124 even. January feeder cattle closed at $1.62 lower at $144.90. March feeder cattle closed $1.62 lower at $142.82. A light to moderate dress trade developed in parts of Nebraska at $195, which is steady with last week's weighted averages. Asking prices in other parts of the country remain firm at $200. A handful of sales in Colorado have been reported at $123. At the Douglas County Livestock Auction in Missouri, receipts are up from the most recent auction and down on the year. Compared to the light run 2 weeks ago, steer calves under 550 pounds were steady to $4 higher, and steers at 550 to 700 pounds were $8 to $9 higher. Heifer calves were $5 to $10 higher. The USDA says demand was good on a moderate supply. Feeder supply included 49% steers, and 32% of the offering was over 600 pounds. Medium and large one-feeder steers, 550 to 597 pounds, brought $151 to $162, and feeder steers 600 to 649 pounds brought anywhere from $148.50 to $157. Medium and large one-feeder heifers 500 to 545 pounds brought $137.50 to $145 even, and feeder heifers 551 to 586 pounds brought $136 to $141. Boxed beef values closed lower on high to moderate demand and heavy offerings. Choice is $1.98 lower at $214.51, and Select is $1.72 lower at $207.66. Choice Select spread is $6.85. Estimated cattle slaughter is 119,000 head, up 4,000 on the week and even on the year. Saturday's estimated kill is 92,000 head, up 6,000 on the week and 8,000 on the year. In South Dakota, alfalfa and grass hay was steady on all grades. USDA says this is the largest volume of hay moved in several weeks. The demand was good to very good, especially with the recent snowstorms. In the East River, alfalfa, Supreme large squares, brought $195 to $240. Good large rounds brought $160 to $170. Fair large squares brought $120 to $150, and large rounds brought $130. Sun-cured alfalfa pellets, 15% protein, brought $185. 17% protein brought $180, and alfalfa meal brought $100. Grass-fed large rounds brought $120 to $130. Alfalfa grass mix, good large rounds brought $150, and large rounds brought $120. No reported sales at the West River. Lean hog futures closed mostly lower. However, early 2020 contracts were firm. The morning's sharply lower cash trade added pressures to prices. February lean hogs closed 20 cents lower at $61.95, and April lean hogs closed 67 cents lower at $66.75. Cash hogs closed firm with moderate negotiated purchase totals. Packer margins remained solid. Buyers had to work a little harder to move some numbers over the weekend. The supply and demand situation made it difficult for the market to find footing and move significantly higher. China continues to battle African swine fever, and that could eventually provide some price support. Barrel and gilt prices at the Iowa Southern Minnesota sale closed 55 cents higher, with a range of $45.50 to $50 for weighted average of $49.26. The Western Corn Belt closed 48 cents higher, with a range of $45.50 to $50 for a weighted average of 49.02. The Western Corn Belt was not reported due to confidentiality, and the National Daily Direct closed 79 cents higher with a range of $45.50 to $50 for a weighted average of 48.22. U.S. Department of Agriculture says early weaned pigs were $2 per head lower. All feeder pigs were $2 per head higher. Demand was moderate for moderate offerings. Receipts included 47% formulated prices. Total composite formula range was $37 to $67.67 with an average of $47.15. Total composite range was $52 to $73 with a weighted average of $65. The average for all early weaned pigs was $54.87, and the average for all feeder pigs was $72.57. Butcher hog prices are not available as the Midwest cash markets were closed this past week. At Illinois, slaughter-style receipts are up for the week and the year. Prices are steady at $20 to $34 with moderate demand for heavy offerings. Barrel and gilt prices are steady at $26 to $33 with moderate demand for moderate offerings. Pork values closed week down 20 cents to $69.70. Butts, loins, and picnics were lower. Hams and picnics were weak. Ribs were firm, and bellies closed higher. Finally, estimated hog slaughter is 477,000 head, up 10,000 on the week, and 38,000 on the year. Saturday's estimated kill is estimated at 427,000 head, up 4,000 on the week, and 61,000 on the year. And reviewing Friday's closing numbers in brief detail, closing grains and livestock futures, and crops markets for the market news. March corn closed at $3.83 a bushel, up 3.25 cents. January soybeans closed at $9.09.5, up 9.5 cents. January soybean meal contracts closed at $3.15.10, up 2.40. January soybean oil closed at $28.41, up 23 points. March wheat closed at $5.17, up 3.25 cents. February live cattle closed at $121.92, down $1.30. February lean hogs closed at $61.95, down 20 cents. February crude oil closed at $47.96, down 87 cents. March cotton closed at $72.52, up 169 points. March rice closed at $10.48, up 3.5 cents. January Class 3 milk closed at $14.25, down 7 cents. February gold closed at $1,285.80, down $9. And finally, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at 23,433.16, up nearly 747 points for Friday's close. That's been a look at farm news for this Monday. Now, let's turn our attention to the weather forecast. And we started off the early morning hours with cloudy skies and periods of rain continuing to move to the east. And that pattern is likely to continue throughout the day. Temperatures this morning started out in the upper 40s. Considerable cloudiness for today with periods of showers continuing this morning. Heavy rain at times. Partly sunny by late this afternoon. Temperatures early this afternoon into the upper 50s. And then temperatures slowly steady or falling throughout the afternoon with southwest winds at 15 to 20 miles per hour. By tonight, a return to clear skies, colder temperatures, lows in the mid-30s. West winds at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Wind gusts picking up after midnight at around 20 to 30 miles per hour. For tomorrow, we'll see sunny skies on Tuesday. Highs in the mid to upper 40s. West winds at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Again with wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour. For Tuesday night, clear skies, lows in the mid-20s. Northwest winds at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Wind gusts up to 25 miles an hour. Sunny skies on Wednesday, but highs barely breaking the freezing mark. Lows around 17 Wednesday night. And then for Thursday, a few clouds. Otherwise, highs in the mid-30s, lows in the mid-20s. Cloudy skies on Friday, with highs in the upper 30s, lows in the mid-20s. More the same for Saturday. And Sunday, cloudy skies, highs in the lower 40s, lows in the upper 20s. And that's been a look at local and regional news of interest for northern and central Missouri on this edition of Fresh Canned News for Monday, January 7th, 2019. I'm your armchair news reporter and presenter, Joe Hafner. Saying my time is up, I thank you for yours.